Before the United States, this land was home to hundreds of distinct Native American societies, each with its own language, government, and culture. For thousands of years, these groups adapted to their environments, from the city builders of the Mississippi Valley to the nomads of the Great Plains. In the Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans engineered cliff dwellings and irrigation systems to farm the desert. Along the Pacific Northwest, communities thrived on the sea, creating totem poles and complex social hierarchies. Far from being untouched wilderness, North America was shaped by its inhabitants through agriculture, controlled burns, and vast trade networks. Goods and ideas traveled across the continent, shells from the Gulf found in the Great Lakes, obsidian from the Rockies in the Ohio Valley. This interconnectedness made North America a dynamic, bustling place long before Columbus. When Europeans arrived, they entered a world already old, complex, and fully inhabited. The collision of these worlds would define the continent's future. Catastrophic changes followed, especially disease, which devastated native populations. The demographic collapse was one of history's greatest tragedies. Understanding this pre-Columbian world is crucial. It's the real beginning of American history. The story of America starts with these diverse nations, not with European arrival. Everything that follows, the conflicts, exchanges, and creation of the United States, begins here. By the 1600s, European powers raced to claim land in North America, driven by religious freedom, national power, and economic opportunity. The English founded Jamestown in 1607, seeking profit. Tobacco became their gold, fueling demand for land and labor, and leading to the rise of slavery. In New England, Pilgrims and Puritans sought religious freedom, building tight-knit, literate communities centered on faith and self-government. The middle colonies, like Pennsylvania, became havens of diversity and tolerance, blending farming, trade, and many cultures. The South's plantation economy depended on enslaved Africans, shaping its society for generations. These regions, New England, Middle, and Southern colonies, developed distinct identities. From the start, colonization was about more than land. It was about building new societies. The patchwork of colonies set the stage for future unity and conflict. Economic ambition, religious vision, and social diversity all collided on this new continent. The seeds of the United States were sown in these differences. The question would soon become, could they unite as one nation? For 150 years, the colonies and Britain coexisted. Britain got resources, the colonies got protection and self-rule. That changed after the costly 7 Years' War. Britain, deep in debt, taxed the colonies to pay for their defense. New taxes like the Stamp Act and Townshend Acts weren't just about money, they asserted British control. Colonists with no voice in Parliament protested, no taxation without representation. Boycotts, fiery speeches, and violence followed, culminating in the Boston Massacre and Boston Tea Party. Britain cracked down with the intolerable acts, pushing the colonies toward rebellion. In 1774, the First Continental Congress met to demand rights, not independence, yet. But fighting broke out at Lexington and Concord. By July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted. The colonies declared themselves free states. The war for independence had begun. The relationship with Britain was broken beyond repair. A new nation was fighting to be born. Declaring independence was just the start. Winning the war and building a government were even bigger challenges. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, faced hardship and defeat, but key victories and French support turned the tide. The British surrendered at Yorktown in 1781, and the United States was born. The first government under the Articles of Confederation was weak. No power to tax, no control over trade, and chaos among the states. Shays' Rebellion exposed these flaws, prompting leaders to meet in Philadelphia in 1787. Instead of revising the Articles, they wrote a new constitution, balancing federal and state power, and creating 3 branches of government. Ratification sparked fierce debate. Federalists wanted a strong central government. Anti-Federalists feared lost liberties. The compromise? The Bill of Rights. 10 amendments protecting freedoms like speech, religion, and fair trial. With the Constitution ratified, the American experiment in self-government began. The new framework was imperfect, but it set the stage for a nation built on debate, compromise, and the rule of law. The United States was now more than an idea. It was a functioning country. The challenge, could it survive and thrive? The answer would unfold in the years ahead. The Constitution became the backbone of American democracy. The promise of liberty and justice was now written into law. The nation's future was uncertain, but its foundation was set. The world watched as America took its first steps. The great experiment had begun. With the Constitution in place, George Washington set crucial precedents as the first president. His cabinet, Hamilton and Jefferson, clashed over the nation's direction: strong federal government and industry, or agrarian democracy and limited power. Their rivalry birthed America's first political parties. Hamilton's financial plans stabilized the economy, while Washington's neutrality shaped foreign policy. The Whiskey Rebellion tested federal authority. Washington's response proved the government could enforce its laws. Peaceful transfers of power, even after bitter elections, became a hallmark of American democracy. Jefferson's presidency doubled the nation's size with the Louisiana Purchase, and sent Lewis and Clark to explore the West. The early republic was a time of setting precedents, facing challenges, and defining the nation's boundaries. America was growing, politically, geographically, and ideologically. The foundation for a new kind of nation was being laid. As America expanded west, the question of slavery haunted every new territory. The North industrialized, the South relied on cotton and slavery. Two worlds, one nation. Each new state threatened the balance between free and slave states, fueling conflict. Manifest destiny drove expansion, but at a terrible cost. Native Americans were forced from their lands, and war with Mexico brought vast new territories. Compromises unraveled in the 1850s. The Fugitive Slave Act, Kansas-Nebraska Act, and Dred Scott decision deepened the divide. The Republican Party rose to stop slavery's spread. Lincoln's 1860 election triggered Southern secession and the birth of the Confederacy. The Civil War erupted in 1861, America's deadliest conflict. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation made the war about ending slavery. The Union's victory in 1865 preserved the nation and abolished slavery. But the challenge of rebuilding and integrating millions of freed people had just begun. The struggle for equality was far from over. The late 1800s and early 1900s saw America become an industrial giant. Steel, oil, railroads, and waves of immigrants fueled growth. But the Gilded Age brought deep inequality, sparking labor unions and the progressive movement for reform. America's power grew globally. World War I drew the U.S. into world affairs, but isolationism soon returned. The Roaring Twenties ended with the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal expanded government's role, creating Social Security and new protections. As the nation recovered, World War II erupted. The attack on Pearl Harbor brought America into the fight. Its industry became the arsenal of democracy. U.S. power helped defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. The war ended with atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, launching the nuclear age. America emerged as a global superpower. The nation had changed forever. Economically, socially, and on the world stage. The next era would bring new challenges. After World War II, the U.S. faced the Soviet Union in the Cold War, a global rivalry fought with proxy wars, arms races, and a race to the moon. At home, prosperity soared. The GI Bill, suburbs, and the baby boom fueled the American dream. But not everyone shared in this dream. Segregation and discrimination persisted. The Civil Rights Movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., used non-violent protest to demand equality. Landmark laws like the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act transformed the nation. The 1960s and 70s saw movements for women's, Latino, and gay rights and protests against the Vietnam War. Political assassinations, riots, and the Watergate scandal shook the country. America was forced to confront its ideals and its realities. The era was turbulent, but it pushed the nation toward greater justice. The struggle for equality and change defined a generation. America was being transformed, again. The Cold War's end left the U.S. as the world's sole superpower. The 1990s brought peace and prosperity, driven by the tech boom and the rise of the internet. But 9/11 shattered that sense of security, launching the war on terror and wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. America grew more diverse, with immigrants from Latin America and Asia reshaping its culture. Debates over immigration, identity, and inequality intensified. The 2008 financial crisis and the election of Barack Obama marked turning points, progress, and persistent divisions. America is a nation of contrasts: immense wealth and deep poverty, freedom and division, innovation and inequality. Its culture influences the world, from Hollywood to Silicon Valley. Built by immigrants, it's a dynamic mix of cultures and ideas. The American story is still unfolding, a journey of triumphs, tragedies, unity, and division. The struggle to live up to ideals of liberty and justice continues. The American experiment is messy, complicated, and unfinished, and striving for a more perfect union remains its greatest challenge and promise.